Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Collector Car Stories podcast, here with CollectorCarCanada.ca. Before we get into the episode, I did want to say here we are in November 2025, and we continue to run auctions, so take a look at CollectorCarCanada.ca to see what we have running right now. And we are still taking sellers, so sellers, don't be shy, fill in those online submissions. We'll have a look and get your car onto the site. So, in addition to the Collector Car Stories podcast, keep in mind we also run the Car Reviews podcast, where every car featured on the website as available is reviewed on video. Take a look at those under the CCC podcast tab, where you'll also find Collector Car Stories podcasts like this one. Today, we're in the third episode of 3 from the Cobble Beach Concours d'Elegance. As I say, we're in November 2025. It's been a couple months since the Concours, but boy, I still have some happy memories from wandering around and looking at the beautiful cars we saw that day. One of them is featured on the picture to my side, in this episode that is, but people liking Corvettes, Cadillac, Buick, Lincoln, there's even a Jensen and some other Brits in this upcoming episode. So please do watch it in its entirety. I think that's enough of an introduction. Here we go on to the third episode of 3. You'll find the other 2 at that same CCC podcasts link on the website, CollectorCarCanada.ca, or here on our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching. Here they come. So lots of non-car people know about the storied Gullwing 300 SL from the 50s. This is the same model, and most might expect the Cabriolet to be, or the Roadster, I guess is what Mercedes call them, to be the one that people want. But of course, with those Gullwing doors, and there's one here today, we might get one yet on this video. The one with the Gullwing doors is the one that's of value. This poor car is probably only worth about $1 million. But the Gullwings are into the multi-millions, certainly.
Oh, appreciate that. Yeah, thanks.
So a 1949 Cadillac Series 62 Sedanette right here in front of us. And this is a time with this swoopy rear window and trunk. People consider that Cadillac really coming of age in terms of styling, which is really a statement because this was the brand of car. Lincolns were special, but in North America, certainly, Cadillac was considered the height of style. But this 49 with that swooping rear side or rear end really told people that announced that Cadillac had come of age. Next to it, we've got a car very similar to one we sold last year. Same year and make and body style. This one's a 60 Buick Invicta. Last year we had a 1960 Buick LeSabre, which one of the few cars we've sold to someone in the United States. It went down to Memphis, our new friend Scott, and I actually sent both buyer and seller of that car pictures of this earlier in the day. So, neat looking car here. White over the red interior. You can see the 3 vent shades, or ventiports, that's what those are called. I think those indicate a non-top of the line model. So the Electra version of this car would have 4 of the ventiports. Working our way back. The neat thing about this 60 Buick, it's got the fins, but the fins are almost horizontal, a bit like the period Bel Airs, whereas earlier the fins were vertical. I guess another Cadillac would be the best example of that, the 1959 Eldorado convertible. Neat T-Bird here, but this next one here is a really special car. I think there are only about 18 of these cars ever built. Very few under private ownership. Certainly Jay Leno is an owner of one of these, but a 1963 Chrysler Turbine Car. So these are worth millions and millions of dollars. Tragically, I just took a look up at the car with the naked eye instead of the viewfinder in the camera, and I see a little dent in the fender just before the gap for the door. I don't know if the camera's picking that up or not. But to get the full power and torque out of these cars, the
Engine had to spin up to about 22,000 RPM, if I understand it correctly. So a jet engine here in the Turbine Car by Chrysler. I mentioned earlier about so few being in private hands. This one is owned by the Detroit Historical Museum. Here's another neat one. People know about Lincoln Continental, and this one is a Continental made by the Ford Motor Company. However, this is not a Lincoln. It's a 1957 Continental Mark II Coupe. So as I say, not a Lincoln, but certainly as pretty as any Lincoln. We'll take a wander right by the side of this 56 Continental. As I say, a Continental, but not a Lincoln, but very pretty. And some appointments that made it into subsequent Lincoln versions of the car. But as I say, this one, technically not a Lincoln, and it's got the 1956 Water Wonderland plate from the fine state of Michigan. Probably where it was built. I'm not sure on that, but probably. If anyone checks that out, you can drop that into the comments. And last in the line is another Cadillac. So this one's a 58, just before that 59 I was talking about, but generous fins on this one down the side, and vertical on those fins rather than the horizontal of the Buicks. You might have heard a fella beside us pointing out the 4 headlights, which is a neat appointment in 1958 for this Cadillac Eldorado Biarritz. There's the Biarritz emblem right here on that fin. Really pretty car, really pretty condition. So here we've got a line of C2 and then C1 Corvettes. I could talk about these. I'll try to rip through them pretty quickly, but this one's a 66 427 Coupe. You can see the side pipes that really heat up. You can see the wheel covers with the knockoff look, and 427 turbojet with the cross flags emblem known in Corvettes. And those tires are a Firestone Affinity. Certainly, I don't think they were built in 1966, but certainly a tribute to the tires of the time. I think that color would be a Nassau blue for 1966. Next up, we've got 63, which is the year of the split window. This one, though, is a Roadster, so convertible top, no split window coupe here. And I really noticed the tires on this one, too. The Goodyear Speedway Blue Streak. I suspect that's what the original tires were on this car. However, this 63 was built a little bit before I was. You can see the side pipes on this as well. 4 coming out of the headers, 4 on each side. Neat white stripe down the center. Next up, we have another Roadster. This one's wearing its hardtop. Again, the first year C2, 63. So they're really teasing us, but we don't get to see a 63 split window today. But a pretty car here, the 63 Corvette Roadster. And another blue one for the last of the C2s. This one's a 65 with the L84 engine. I see a fuel injection emblem on the fender. So not too many fuel injected. There were still lots of carbureted Corvettes back in this time, but luckily we get to take a look at this one. Don't see anything about the engine on this one, but I suspect it's probably a 327. Well, the original window stickers on the dash. Maybe we could check it out. White interior. National Corvette Museum. If you're a Corvette person, I recommend a visit there. It's it's in Bowling Green, Kentucky, if you ever get a chance to go down. So this one is that same Nassau blue I was talking about, and built in St. Louis, Missouri. So at this time, Corvettes were popular, and they were built throughout the United States. I only saw for the engine there 375 horsepower engine, so we might have to look that up for you and superimpose it on the screen. I mentioned this earlier in the video, how most of the cars are #1 cars, but this one is not, and it's proud of it. This one is looking about as original as you can find. I think I saw that it's a 57, so original red with the white coves and broad white walls and wheel covers. And we'll get in a little closer. Of course, now this is a convertible car, but it's wearing its hardtop. And we look inside there. We can see an automatic transmission. And some appointments are a lot like the 61 Corvette we have available on the website right now. So here it is. Yeah, it's a 57, sure enough. And I guess we call this one the Patina King of the Day. And now here's on a first year Corvette, 1953. You can see this one's a single headlight. The first year had a screen over the single headlight, and the subsequent one in black had the double headlights. They started, I think, around 59. But this white on red example from 1953, would you believe the original Corvettes were 6-cylinder engines? So a blue streak engine, 6-cylinder. And you can see the 1953 license plate out of Michigan on this one. Working our way over here to the black Roadster with the broad white walls and the knockoff look on those wheel covers. So this one's a 59 Corvette. I believe the first year for those dual headlights on either side, as I was saying. The dual tail lights started in 1961, much like the car we have available on the website right now. So take a look at that if you're in the market for a C1 Corvette. It's a 61 and it's a beauty. Okay, I think I said earlier how I expected to see some Buicks. I can't remember the one I didn't expect to see that we saw earlier, but here's something a little more like you'd expect to see here at Cobble Beach. A 1963 Buick LeSabre, but this one was used by then Prime Minister Lester B. Pearson. So yes, kids, Pearson is more than just an airport in Toronto. And this one's owned by the Canadian Automotive Museum in Oshawa, another fabulous place to visit if you've got an afternoon to kill and you're near Oshawa. So taking a close look at this, I get a kick out of this too. We're so Canadian. Not a Cadillac or Lincoln limo, but for Lester B. Pearson, the Buick was just good enough. Interestingly, I'm not sure if that's a vinyl or a leather front bench, and I'm not going to touch it, but more of a brocade style in the rear for Prime Minister Pearson. Looking to the rear of the car, and as we go back here, I'll also mention that back in my university days, the finance minister in Canada was a fellow named Michael Wilson, who was in Brian Mulrooney's cabinet, and we were treated to a speech by Minister Wilson. This was about 1990, I'd estimate, and he not only turned up in the back seat of a period Chevrolet Caprice Classic, but he mentioned how it was an example of his restraint and not blowing the taxpayer money, being that he arrived in the Chevrolet, not a Cadillac. This Nash, I have seen this car up here in the Owen Sound area before. We're going to try and find the What We've Seen page we put together from a couple of years ago in the Concours de Lemons. This was not entered in the Concours de Lemons, but it was parked nearby. So 51 Nash Canadian Statesman. All right, I can't see what the class here is called, but I'm seeing imports from the 50s and 60s here. And we're going to start here with this 56 Jensen 541. Interestingly, Jensen later, a British make, was putting Chrysler, Dodge, Hemi engines into its cars to get lots of powers. You might know a car named the Jensen Interceptor. Now here's one I talked about earlier. Here it is, the hallowed Gullwing 300 SL Mercedes. And this one is even decked out with its original luggage. And check out those pattern plaid seats. This one's a really special car, worth well into the millions. Let's get a look at the rear of it with those Gullwing doors open and beautiful Georgian Bay in the background. So I don't see too many flaws on this one. Hoovie would be proud, something for him to aspire to. Hoovie's Garage is a YouTuber I'm referring to there. People might get a kick out of his YouTube podcast in case you haven't seen them. So 54 Mercedes-Benz 300 SL Gullwing. Another special one here, also from Germany. It is the second last year of the 356 by Porsche, so a 64 Porsche 356C. And the one thing that's really unique about this, it's got a sunroof. Not too many 356s you see with sunroofs. So this is owned by one of our, I won't call her a friend, but certainly an acquaintance, someone I know a little bit from the Burlington Cruisin' Car Show. I didn't even know she owned this car. It's really something. Look at that interior. Not too much out of place in there. And a very proper little, I believe it's a 1600 cc engine, but certainly a flat 4 air-cooled. And last in this line, we've got an XKE Jaguar. So 4.2 engine, which means it's a straight 6. And it's kind of jacked up in the rear. It looks kind of cool with the two pipes coming out the rear, knockoff wire wheels. And look at this camel or tan interior. Darn near perfect. That's really something. Let's get a little bit closer. And I might be able to pick out the year on this one. Yeah, with those headlight covers, that is looking like a 1965. So we're kind of starting to run out of time, but this is a special one I wanted to show you. Special car certainly, but a special owner. His name's Steve Plunkett. He's out of London, Ontario. He's a serial Cadillac collector, I'll say. I was lucky enough to see his collection on a club event with the Golden Horseshoe Mustang Association. I believe it was the spring of 2024. We'll pop up the What We've Seen page for that. But all kinds of Cadillacs, as well as Buicks, Olds, Pontiac, and Chev in his collection, and a few other domestics, but primarily GM, but a real friend of the hobby, Steve Plunkett. Take a look, do a Google search on Fleetwood Country Cruisin'. That show is now defunct, but there's information on it, and he does tour people around his private collection. Look for an event when you do that Google search and get a chance to see Mr. Plunkett's collection. But for today here, this one is a fantastic, I believe it's a 41 Cadillac. Check out that hood ornament. And one last look at it, the 41 Cadillac style 41 custom limo, and it's called the Duchess. And as I see the Duchess on the nameplate, I do remember seeing this car when we did the tour back in the spring of 24.